Hello guys, so as promised on TikTok, I'm going to translate what Altman said in front of Congress, the American Congress. Altman is the openAI CEO. There are a few short clips here that I want to translate in a comprehensible language. First in English and also in Italian. Let's see.
However, we think that regulatory intervention by governments will be critical to mitigate the risks of increasingly powerful models.
So we want government interventions to mitigate the risks. The capitalistic translation is since we are the first to scale this big on language models, we want regulation so the government is not coming after us for anything that may happen later. And we're gonna join actively in the definition of this regulation, lobby about it, and then have a barrier of entry as the first comers against all the rest of competitors, and most of all the small competitors.
For example, the US government might consider a combination of licensing and testing requirements.
You see? A combination of licenses and testing requirements means to sell a language model of that scale, you need to be licensed from the government. And since OpenAI is the first to go there with Microsoft, they want to join this regulation and make it as much as possible to their advantage.
For development and release of AI models above a threshold of capabilities.
Above threshold capabilities because they are the only one at the moment with maybe Google and a few others in the world to reach such scale of data and compute. And so since the intelligence of these systems depends on the scale, they have the most smart ones. GPT-3 in particular and 4.
Happening on the open source community is amazing, but there will be a relatively small number of providers that can make models at the true leading edge.
Is saying, you know, the open source ecosystem is amazing. They don't care about the open source ecosystem as much as they do not become a direct competition. They know that the open source models are small, they do not run at scale, and so they're not scared of the open source community. They will probably, you know, OpenAI released a few open models, but after they switch to be completely corporate, after the Microsoft acquisition, they mostly see open source as really dangerous, but not as much as, you know, they have bigger models, so they don't care about open source.
I think there is benefits and danger to that. Like, as we're talking about all of the dangers with AI, the fewer of us that you really have to keep a careful eye on the absolute like bleeding edge of capabilities, there's benefits there. But then I think there needs to be enough, and there will, because there's so much value.
You know, he's saying since the open source models are too small, they don't really are a concern to us, but regulation must be done for us, for the big players, because we have the bigger models. And so we'll keep those models closed behind the data center, and let's build regulation so we can sell this. It's quite straightforward.
That consumers have choice, that we have different ideas. And I think a minimum is that users should be able to sort of opt out from having their data used by companies like ours or the social media companies. It should be easy to delete your data. I think those are, but the thing that I think is important from my perspective running an AI company is that if you don't want your data used for training these systems, you have the right to do that.
Okay, this is correct, but the dialogue about using data to train this model is already on another level, way more specific than this. There are lawsuits already. The main difference is between opt-in and opt-out. It doesn't talk about opt-in and opt-out. Opt-in means that to use my data to train your model, I must explicitly say the yes, use my data to train the model. Opt-out, which was what Altman is referring to, is oh, you use my data to train your model. No, 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 take the data away. Of course, it is way better to use an opt-in system than an opt-out system, but we'll see what happens.
As this technology advances, we understand that people are anxious about how it could change the way we live. We are too. But we believe that we can and must work together to identify and manage the potential downsides so that we can all enjoy the tremendous upsides.
They're not concerned at all. They just want, to be regulated because they are the first commerce. Language models are indeed dangerous, but they just want regulation so they have no responsibility later on. If they respect the regulation, then no problems at all. They have black box models. They just need the licensing to be less concerned about what may happen about language model, and to make a barrier to entry in respect of other competitors. When these people talks about, opportunity, possibility, and value, they mostly talk about, centralizing. That's their mindset. These capitalistic Americans, big corporations, they only talk about, being the only one controlling everything, being the platform, and they are on the right path for that. But beware, guys, because the language is something these people use in another. It's not common people. It's saying totally different things than the word that we hear. So they're all about power and money. Of course, it's their right to do that. If they respect the law, they're asking for the law, and so whatever. I hope Europe stops just thinking about regulation and starts and we start doing our own language models, because we already lost the operating system war, we lost the search engine wars. We lost the browser wars, we lost the mobile wars, we lost the social network wars. I want Europe to be strong on AI. And by the way, take a look at the Cheshire Cat. Bye.